Uh, yeah. Who's doing something fun this weekend? Anything?
Tomorrow's my roommate's birthday.
Who might that be?
Kelsey.
Kelsey.
Kelsey Beck.
Oh, I know Kelsey. She's dating a carpenter, right? Yeah. Justice? Okay. Okay. Her family moved out of York like the year we moved here. They were in York for a while. We actually looked at their house where they used to live. We didn't buy it, but we actually looked at it. Anyway, yeah. Okay. How about some other fun? What are you doing? Baseball?
Yeah, Kansas City this weekend.
Kansas City. Going to Kansas City. Kansas City, here I come. What's that?
Playing Apple.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's a whole 12 hours away. I know it. How about you, honey? Working? Remind me where you work? I didn't know that. Or did I know that? Have I seen you out there? I don't know if I have. You've seen everybody else in town. You've probably seen me. Honestly, I try to keep Walmart runs to once a month. That's just me.
Like every 3 days.
Yeah. Well, I try to keep them once a month. I have a Walmart list on my device. I mean, seriously. I have a list of things that I normally get at Walmart and things I need like one time at Walmart. I'll add to that list and I get everything at once. Okay, what am I going to do? Oh, I went to the zoo yesterday. It's a science department. It was way cool. Got my thing still. It was way cool. If you have not been to Henry Doorly Zoo in Omaha, you need to go. It is consistently by the authorities in this field, not just by the local people. It's ranked as one of the top 2 or 3, 4 zoos in the entire world. In the world. And it's located 80 miles from here. If you get to go with a group, like a school or something, that's good. You get a lot cheaper again. But it was really, really amazing. It was very, very amazing. If you haven't been, you've got to go before you leave Nebraska. Okay, if you're leaving Nebraska. You're from Lincoln. You've been to Henry Doorly Zoo? Do you agree that's good?
Yeah. I mean, I went to.
Okay. Well, I had not been to it since my kids were in middle school. And I don't know how old you are, but my kids are a few years older than you. So it's been a while since I've been there. Now I did the very smart thing. If you're going to go to Henry Doorly Zoo, the first thing you need to do to take with you is Gail Miller. Okay, pack Gail Miller with you.
Just
right?
shove her in my bag.
Yeah, just shove her in the bag, and that's what you need. You need a semi-retired biology professor who's been there a million times and knows all about zoology and everything. That's who you need to do the zoo with.
Miss Miller's my favorite professor. No offense, you're pretty cool though. Miss Miller is my favorite.
I can't compete with Gail Miller.
Like when she retired, I was devastated. And then when she came back, I was like signing up for every class.
Yeah, and she's not teaching anything next year. She's really retiring now. No, she's a she's been a great asset to the school. She's been I've worked with her for 18 years. She and her husband are people that drove us to the airport when we came here to interview. So I've known her and Ray a long time. And very good friend of mine. And so Rose and I toured with her and got the inside scoop on all these frogs and different critters. She'd say, "Oh, that's a so-and-so African tapir." Oh yeah, that's what I was thinking. That was good. Okay.
Are you going again?
What?
On Sunday?
No.
Oh.
No.
Okay, cool.
No. What am I doing this weekend? Sunday, I'm helping set up clothing exchange.
Well, I was just wondering because I know Kingsman Omega 2 is going to go.
I haven't gotten a communication from Kingsman and Megan Fee in a year, so I don't know what they're doing. But that's great. That's great.
I don't even know who our co-sponsors are.
All right. Well, they know at least I'm a sponsor. But anyway, they call me when they need me, I guess, and they haven't needed me this year. Anyway, the tests. Oh, what do I got here?
I don't want to hear
The
I
test.
don't wanna know that.
Now, let me just say this. What did I say about the calculator? Use the calculator. And almost nobody did on any of them. Now, you know what? Me being a swell guy, not as swell as Mrs. Miller, but swell, very swell. I will forever defend your God-given right to do it the long way, right? But that is not the way of
lazy bone scum suckers.
That's not the scum sucker way, right? There are several steps of, well, actually, since you did it by hand, if you're going to do everything by hand, at least have the hypothesis test method down pat, right? If you're going to do everything by hand, okay? And I taught both, right? Try to be okay. State hypotheses. And I don't want to hand out the test yet because everyone's going to look at you're all going to look at your test and not listen. Okay. State your hypotheses, right? Figure out what distribution is. Is it a Z? Is it a T? Is it a chi-square? And if you're doing it on the calculator, you figure out which test or interval this is on your calculator. I also said the first thing you do when you look at a problem, is figure out whether it's a confidence interval or a hypothesis test. And so if it's a hypothesis test and you go confidence interval, you are trying to get to California by going through New York, right? You're off in parts unknown, right? Tumbleweed zone, okay? So determine the test if it's a confidence interval or a hypothesis test. What was the second thing I said you to look at? I told you to look at for which population parameter. Your choices are P, mu, sigma. If it's mu, determine whether you're given the population standard deviation. The population standard deviation. Oh, I can see one thing. You already know the test. It wasn't there. If it wasn't there, I'm going to give you another chance at that problem. Yeah, it was there. Yeah, that list was there. We'll talk later. I was concerned about that. Okay, so you figure out for which population parameter and figure out whether, if it's for mu, you figure out whether you're given the population standard deviation. Otherwise, you need to find the sample standard deviation. And if you tried to find that by hand, I will forever defend your God-given right to do it the long way. Okay? Me being the guy I am. But me, I'm using the calculator. Even if I'm going to do the problem by hand, even if I choose not to use the test and everything on the calculator, which is very non-bottom blower, okay? But if you decide to do that, at least use one variable stats to compute your sample mean and sample standard deviation, if the stuff's on your calculator, right? So for a hypothesis test, let me dispense with a confidence interval first. Confidence interval, you need two things, unless it's for standard deviation. You need two things. Number one, a point estimate, right? Number two, an error. All those come from your sample. You don't need any hypothesis when you're doing an interval. All that comes from your sample. So your point estimate is going to be, in the case of population proportion, p hat. The number in your sample that had the characteristic divided by the size of your sample. Population for the sample mean, it's going to be add them all up, divide by how many there were in your sample. All that's from your sample. Sample standard deviation. And once I get off the first page, I don't know who did what because your name's not on it. And it's good your name's not on it because if I don't like you, I'm going to take off more points. It's just bad. No, I don't do that. If I took off points for obnoxious students, oh, no. No, there aren't very, no. Every now and then there's a few, but you guys, I owe you more than my words can express, honestly. But after the first page, I don't know who did what, but there were some people trying to do the sample standard deviation by hand. Oh, face palm. You can do it if you want to. You can do it if you want to. You're going to be here till next week. If I give you a sample of 50 and you're trying to compute the standard deviation by hand, well, you got all the formulas on the page. All the formulas were here, right? But yeah, use one variable stats. Right. So anyway, that's what you needed for the sample standard deviation. Okay, so you that's for our confidence interval. Dismiss that point estimate, error term. For hypothesis tests, you need to go through those steps. Number one, what's being claimed about which parameter? We looked through the problem, every single problem. I took the pen and I said, go through here. It's saying u is less than or equal to 20 or whatever it was, and then I took that and I stuck my claim, right? H0, H1, which one is it? If it had, there are people that mess this up. There are people that mess this up. But I don't even know who. I don't even know. I could go in and look. Which one goes in the null hypothesis? The one with the equality condition, right? So if you go through what's being claimed or whatever, mu is greater than 17, greater than, doesn't include equality, goes in the alternative. The complement, greater than or equal to, goes in the null. Okay? The null always has the equality condition. The alternative never has the equality condition. Then you stake your claim. You put your claim in first, and wherever it goes, depending if it has a quality condition. Then you make the other one the complement. Okay? The null can only be rejected or fail to be rejected. It cannot be accepted. Accepting the null, oh, may he rest in peace. You can't accept the null. No. A kitten doesn't die when you do that, but gets his tail stuck in the door. Okay, put it that way. You know, it's bad. It's bad. Poor little kitty. Right. So you don't accept the null. You can reject the null, fail to reject the null, but you don't accept the null. Similarly, you don't reject the alternative. You accept the alternative or fail to accept the alternative. Which one do you do? Depending on which one you're claiming. But the result, don't confuse the result of the test. The result of the test is you reject H0, fail to reject H0. Then you write your conclusion in terms of your claim. So the conclusion has your claim in it. That's the reject or fail to reject, accept or fail to accept. That's that one sheet I did not give you on the formula card, right? And I actually broke down and I ripped my, oh, I ripped the nice new formula card out of my book. So that old tattered one, I actually have the right chapter numbers. And the one I gave out to you in class for the test had the right chapter numbers, okay? But the one thing I wanted you to know, I told you you would not have on the test, is this panel right here. This panel is what you need to understand about hypothesis tests. I'm glad it's there for reference, but this I want people to know. I want statistics students to know this. All right? And to tell you the truth, I don't have it particularly memorized. I could draw it. I have to think through it. Okay? So if you're doing this by hand, set up your hypotheses, determine which test you're going to run for depending on the parameter, find your alpha. Next thing, critical value. You're going to set up a rejection region somewhere. And the direction of the test depends on the alternative. The direction of the alternative never has an equal in it. It's always greater than, less than, or not equal. It's not equal to two-tailed tests. Less than points left, left-tailed test greater than right. Okay? So you're going to load all your alpha in that tail, one of those tails, unless it's a two-tailed test, you're going to split it up and put half in each tail. Then you're going to compute your test statistic, and this is where people really messed up. The test statistic, honestly, is one of the first things I look for. It's all first things I always look for in an hypothesis test. And between teaching this and grading AP stats for all those years, I think they've sent me out the pasture finally. I don't think they're going to rank this year. You're only supposed to do the last 6 years. I've been doing it 15. So they want to get new people in there. But anyway, the first thing I look for is the test statistic, if someone's done it by hand. The first thing I look for if somebody's done it by the calculator, I look for the p-value. They tell the story. They don't tell the whole story. They tell most of it. If somebody has the correct test statistic, I'm willing to bet my bean sprouts that most of the rest is good. Most of it. Okay. All right. I'll still check. I still check it all. I check for all these components I'm talking about. But the test statistic and the p-value, that tells the story. If I had to check one more thing to see, it would be the critical value. And I want to see a comparison between the test statistic and critical value if you're doing it by hand, and between the p-value and alpha if you're doing it on the calculator. All right. Then, if your test statistic falls in the rejection region, you're going to reject H0. And depending on which one was your claim, if you reject H0, you're either going to reject the claim, if it was H0 your claim, or you're going to accept the alternative. So you never accept H0. A kitten gets her tail caught in the middle. Bad. All right. All right. Then I put a few other little things on there. I did put confidence intervals there. True false, always a crowd favorite. Then I put one on for sample size estimation. We did sample size estimation. I did one of those. And then I did one that made you understand the p-value. It was on the last page. It made you understand what a p-value was. Okay. And then I threw was a 1 point extra credit if you could tell me what the power of a test was. Right. And I mentioned it a few times in class. It's not a slide though. So somebody has to write it down from class, or they have to actually have seen it in the book. Right? Okay? Okay. So I'm going to put my face muzzle on. Hey, you know what? Here's my wish for you this weekend. You go somewhere you don't need this, the face diaper, right? Go somewhere you don't need one of these, right? No. Your bedroom in your apartments doesn't count, right? There's probably somebody who wants you to wear them there too, okay? But don't get me started. Mr. Miller, you already are started. Okay. All right, here we go. Here we go. Ready? All right.
I really don't want it.
What's that?
I really don't want it.
Yeah, I'll give you hers. One.
It'd probably be better, honestly. I'll take anyone else's. Can I have Marcy's?
I'll take more.
Okay. Now I'm going to go through a few of these. Don't mark on your test, but you can write down my comments if you want. And by the way, most of what I just said would be my comments here. All right, number one. Is it a hypothesis test or a confidence interval? You identify that. Okay? And it says, at the 95% significance level, test the claim. So if you start down inner confidence interval route, you're off in very arid territory. And for which population parameter? That time interval of Old Faithful's eruptions, the standard deviation of the time interval of Old Faithful's eruptions are no more than 13 minutes. Standard deviation, no more than 13 minutes. Okay. And again, I'm looking here. Now, this is the work I have on my paper. Okay. I want you to see something. This right here is the work I have on my paper for this problem. I got half a page of work. Why? Because I do it by hand and I do it on the calculator. The calculator, okay, you need your hypotheses. The calculator is one stinking little line. It's that little line right there is the calculator part. All the rest of this jive is doing it by hand. All right? Now the other thing, if you really, I've had students say this, and I understand it. If you really like doing something by hand, you feel more like I'm in touch with it that way, let me get beside you and just go through those steps. You know, we'll put a problem on the board or get a problem out of the book, and we'll go through those steps. Another good time to do this today is Friday. A great time to do this would be Spark. We got 2 sparks left, right? Okay, got 2 sparks left. While I'm on that, I'm going to chase that rabbit trail because I have ADHD and I can't keep the same topic for more than 5 minutes. I want to make sure I mention this. We have one on the 19th, we have one on the 26th. 27th is the last day of classes. 28th is the first day of finals. 28, so 26, last spark, right? Right? You know, there's going to be, free, free smartphones or something that night. I know, everyone's going to have to do something. 27th, I don't know if we're going to do this. Maybe you know, somebody knows. Normally, non-COVID years,
Pancake breakfast. Just kidding.
pancake breakfast.
Is that what they do?
Well, actually, in spring it's a social, ice cream social. Pancake breakfast is in December.
I haven't heard anything
Okay,
about that.
now let me tell you 2 things. 2 things. And I don't mean to be running anybody down because this is going to step on somebody's toes on campus. In years past, even non-COVID, they wait till the very last minute to announce they're even having it. Okay, which to me, it mitigates against what I'm about to say. But I think you're going to have it because last spring and last December, you really weren't using the calf so much. Last spring was closed. You guys were all home, right? Last spring. Okay. I don't know what was happening in December, not my department. But I think since the calf is kind of buzzing now, I think you're going to have it. But that's only speculation on my part. That will depend on the student development group, okay? All right, I'm pretty sure they're the ones that guide that. Where's my point? I show up there to tutor. Okay, so the only time you're going to see this old bag of bones on campus at 10 o'clock at night is either when I'm really late in grading and my grades are due the next morning. And I've spent more than one night in this building. Okay, count the nights I've spent in this building getting my grades done. This building makes weird sounds.
I'm sure it does.
Oh, buildings make sounds, but SAC has a few extra. My office used to be up there.
Oh, my God.
Spooky, right? Spooky. Yeah. Okay. So I show up. Usually the ice cream social starts at 10. Yes, I drive myself here at 10 o'clock at night. Actually, about 9:30. I set up on the side of the calf that is toward the building formerly known as the library. Okay, so the north side. And usually I have people from all my classes. It takes a couple, 2 or 3 tables. We set up there and we eat our ice cream and we do math. Okay, so the final in here is Friday, noon to 2. Last day of finals.
That's my birthday.
Is it?
20 extra credit points for my 20th birthday?
20th birthday?
Yeah.
20th?
Yeah.
I got socks older than that. That says more about me than you. Yeah. Well, I'll look. I'll whip up a special 2-sample t-test just for you.
Guys, we're gonna have.
And these, no, but these guys are saying, no, it needs to be just for you. It wouldn't be special if only you had, unless only you had to do it. It wouldn't be special. Okay. So I'll be there. I'll be there that 2 nights in a row, basically, on campus, helping out that. Hopefully helping people this week, the 26th and 27th. Okay. Right. Okay, so that's problem 1.
I have a question really
Yeah.
fast about the calculator.
Mhm.
Okay, so I didn't do it right, okay, but I do want to ask this question in case when I learn how to do it right. Okay, so it says that the sample is given in data list OFINT.
Which I put on everyone's calculator.
Yes, under C old faithful.
Oh, yeah, but you didn't have to do that, I just put the
You
list on.
just put the OFINT.
Yeah, you didn't have, the C Old Faithful, some of your calculators have it, some don't.
Okay, so if
So
I
if-
just go lists and I go OFINT, that's fine?
Yeah.
Okay, just make sure. 'cause that's
Yeah,
what I
and
did.
I probably should, since I put it on everyone's calculator, I probably should have said something that don't look for C Old Faithful.
Well, yeah, and then I looked in like the apps and I found Sealed Faithful, but then I didn't have an OFINT option, so I was really.
Well, OFINT is actually in there, but I never showed you how to get lists out of C Old Faithful.
Okay, cool, thank you.
Okay, so yes, OFINT was Old Faithful intervals, right? And I might see Old Faithful this summer, get there. Yeah. And are you going to family camp for you again?
My family's going,
Oh,
but I don't think
okay.
I'm going.
Well, I wouldn't see you anyway.
Maybe I'll pop in.
I'm a family too, so.
Yeah, maybe I'll pop in for like a couple of days.
Well, I'll be up there teaching the most awesome teens around. The teens who go to that camp, they're crazy. They're crazy and knowledgeable. Okay. Next. Yellowstone tour guide told you. See, Yellowstone makes it. Told you the average grizzly bear weighs over 600 pounds. Incredulous, you and your friends decide to capture a random sample of grizzlies. That's something I do. If you play soccer long enough, you're not. Now, he would just go kill each one. Now we got Mars back here. Big as a house, he'll be like a Samson, terrible partner. So you're gonna capture a sample of grizzlies and find out they have the following weights. Blah 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 blah. Now these aren't in a list, but if you're smart, you're gonna put them in a list. It takes 20 seconds to type those in the list. Okay? And you're told the average grizzly bear weighs over 600 pounds. Which population parameter is that? Mu, average. Okay? Don't compute the standard deviation of those things. 3-digit numbers by hand. Oh my gosh. Oh, honestly, that will take you all afternoon, right? You pop them in a list, and even if you're going to work this thing by hand, let one variable stats give you the sample standard deviation and sample mean. Please. Okay. And so the average grizzly bear weighs over 600 pounds. I'm not going to tell you what to do with that. That's important. Okay. Over 600 pounds. All right. And so you have to decide what test to use. When do you use a Z and when do you use a T on the for population mean? You only use a Z when you know sigma. And you don't know sigma, you know S, or you can find out S.
So you use T?
Use T, no matter what, T. Yeah. Now, assuming the weights of Yellowstone grizzlies are normally distributed, use alpha's 0.01 to test the accuracy of your tour guide statement. So you got to go look up and figure out what your tour guide said. All right? Once again, much shorter on the calculator, but I did, I have it on MTH both ways. And I have it on MTH with some common mistakes. I always put those on there so I know what mistakes somebody made. Now, if you see ink on your paper somewhere, that means that part needs your attention. All right? There may be other parts, but at least that part. I try to find where most people, on most problems, I try to find where you left the trail. Okay? Not where you stepped off the cliff into a canyon, but where you left the trail and started going barefoot. Okay? Then that's where I try to do you. Down below, construct a 95% hypothesis test for the average. No, confidence interval. This is a confidence interval, right? And I will say, if you did what's above, doing this one is like changing one number. I'll tell you which one it is. I'm going to tell you which one it is. And you get exactly the same confidence interval by hand and on the calculator. All the rest of them get a little bit different. Like if somebody does their test statistic by hand, they get one a little bit different than if it's on the calculator, because the calculator is using all those decimal places, right? And you see in chapter 9 that the calculator actually may use a more sophisticated formula for degrees of freedom. All right. Yes. This is oh man. Now, if you lived in New York, you live at the time, or any place that snows. Okay. So in response to podunk snow on the sidewalk crisis, every year in the newspaper, there's people griping about people aren't shoveling their sidewalks here in New York. And there is an ordinance. They can actually fine you for not shoveling your sidewalks and whatever it is at the time. So Mayor Pete Payoff, you know a mayor like that, right? Made a campaign promise to crack down on the 72% of podunk homeowners who failed to clear off their snow on the sidewalks within 48 hours. Oh, the humanity. Actually, I hate it because I have to walk home sometimes. I have to walk with these people who don't do this. Right. After he took office, Betsy Basher of Channel 2 News, every town's got a Betsy Basher, randomly selected 24 houses. 48 hours after the blizzard, found that 15 still had snow on the sidewalk. Number 1. Part A. Test whether or not Mayor Payoff had kept his pledge. Test. That's a hint. Test. Number 2. Which population parameter? The choices are P, mu, or sigma. Anytime you're talking about percents of people doing this or that, you're talking P. Okay? So you're going to look up in the problem, see what's being claimed, and he kept his pledge. Well, what did he say to do when he was going to crack down a year after the says, and did he keep his pledge to reduce the percentage of snow on the sidewalk violators? That gives you important information for setting up your hypotheses. Now, if I can, I don't want to give away the game, but I'm really trying to help. Down below, using the aforementioned 72% figure as an estimate, how many houses would Betsy Basher have to inspect in order to assure a 99% confidence level that her survey is accurate to within plus or minus 3%? All right. That formula is on your card, and you got to use the information I gave you there. All right. The true false is, like I said, those are mainly properties of hypothesis tests. Right? Right? Things about what is alpha. A confidence interval can be narrowed by increasing the sample size. True or false? The value alpha represents the probability that hypothesis test reaching an incorrect conclusion. So you're interpreting the various components of somebody know those components are. Number 6. Hypothesis test has a alternative of p not equal 0.5 and a test statistic of z is 2.12. Find the p-value. I will tell you, if you go into research, if you're going to be the consumer of any research, what they will tell you, actually, they will tell you, is H1 and P. They won't even tell you, I got Z there. Z is 2.12. You don't know if that's in a rejection region or not, right? Off the top of your head, right? And but the P tells you exactly how probable that test statistic was, given that the quality conditions of the null hypothesis is true. This here, you have to know what a p-value is to answer that question. So we did a slide. There's a slide in the book. When we first introduced p-values, there's a slide with 3 things. Now, the p-value in this case is all on one. P-value in this case, all on another. P-value in this case, 2 tails. Okay. And then the power of a hypothesis test. I mentioned that. So you have until 4 o'clock on Wednesday, next Wednesday, to make your corrections. In my humble opinion, sooner is much better than later, because we're going to be flying in here. We only got 6 minutes left. We're going to be flying in here. Let me get my mask on. Okay.
Wait, what was the extra credit one?
What was it? Well, if
What were you looking for?
I was looking for what the power of a hypothesis test is, give me a definition. And so I'll tell you, but nobody can, somebody got it. One person got it. So I asked Mars, what's the power of a hypothesis? See, I don't even know the name.
Probability of rejecting a null that is false or incorrect.
It's the probability of rejecting a null hypothesis that's actually false. So it's the probability of convicting the guilty.
Oh, okay.
And I mentioned that a few times in
I
class.
remember talking about that now.
I mentioned that a few times in class. More than once. All right? Let me know how I can help you. Come and come by Spark on Monday. And let's take the $1,000 glass board, whatever how much that is, because I know it ain't cheap. Did you see that glass board? If you have, look, it's worth coming to Spark just to see the glass board. I mean, it's pretty. My daughter would say it's pretty dope. Right. All right. Here we go. Now, oh yeah, we got 6 minutes. We got 6 minutes to talk about.
So guys, it was nice.
Nice knowing you.
I'll be retaking it. Hopefully not.
Okay. Let me just tell you. Okay, you know, because I'm a swell guy. Final exam is going to be cumulative, and you will be able to weight it 25, 50, or 75% of your course grade, the whole grade. Now, I'm not going to lie to you. If you're cruising at one level for a whole semester, to raise that, if you're cruising at, say, a 50% performance level, to back 80% in your last couple games, I'm not lying to you. You're going to have to really, really work on your batting. All right? You're going to feel the earth move under your feet. You're going to have a tectonic shift. But I told you the story. There's been more than one. There'll be a few people happen this semester in my different classes. I told you about the young lady who sat right back there and was there from 1 o'clock till 5, right? We still joke about that, right? Now we can joke about it. But she did it. I put her exam on the top and pretty much used it as the answer key. Gail Miller's niece. She has a niece named Abby. She was a student here back 15 years ago. An amazing student. Now, unlike the young lady's story, she never fell behind. She was cruising on the final exam, you know. And Abby would do this. She'd be in a test and she'd be doing this. She would have the paper in front of her, and she'd be going. You're wondering if she's given up? She's not writing it.
She'd write down the answer.
Well, not quite the answer, but she wouldn't write very much. But it'd all be right. I mean, you could hear the silicon chips just smoking in her head. She went on and got a PhD in genetics. That tells you what kind of as a work study, they called her Wonder Woman, because nobody got so much done in a work study time as she did. Okay, so we are doing here. Our subject was 2 sample hypothesis tests, and we just did them where we take 2 independent samples. Now we're going to do dependent samples, and we're only going to talk about one kind of dependent sample, only one kind. Because you remember I told you before, if you're doing a sample at Doane and a sample at York College, the fact that I include Cassidy in the sample at York College shouldn't impact anybody's probability of getting chosen at Doane. In fact, it shouldn't impact anybody's probability of getting chosen at York College. The fact that I choose her shouldn't impact the probability of you getting chosen. Right? That's independence, right? Now, this is the opposite. Now, there's many ways that 2 samples can be dependent. Okay, we're going to talk about only one, but it's one that's used all the time. You ready? It's called matched pairs. Matched pairs or dependent samples, but matched pairs is what it goes by. And matched pairs means this: there's going to be 2 samples 2 samples, but every member of one sample is paired with exactly 1 member of the other sample. Okay, so if you have husband and wives, sometimes they do studies on husbands and wives for dietary things and so forth, because a lot of times they eat a lot of the same foods, they keep the same like sleeping hours closer, right? They have a lot of the same risk factors. Usually they both smoke or they both don't, kind of thing, right? They tend to be around the same age, within a few years, you know, couple 2-3 years. This kind of thing. So they'll do husbands and wives. Now, why would they do that? Because they want to look at the genetic differences, because that's the nurture part. The environmental factors of your lifestyle are nurture. That's parts that you can influence by behavior. But then there's a genetic part. We have an alumnus here named Scott Abram. He's one of the first science graduates that really took off, went to med school back in the late 90s. I think he graduated in 2000. He is now he's now an orthopedic surgeon, and he came back for a faculty thing or for an awards thing a while back. And I said, hey, you know, I'm gonna, you know, see, the reason why you guys come back for homecoming when you're gone is for old geezer faculty members to mooch you for advice in your expertise. So this guy's an orthopedic surgeon. I said, okay, what can somebody do at my age to improve their performance and duration of their joints, right? He said, oh, get different parents.
Fair enough.
Right? That's the genetic difference. Number one thing in like joint deterioration and getting your hips replaced and everything, the number one thing is your genetics. The number 2 thing is things like weight, and your diet does help some, but right. So anyway, matched pairs is used when you need 2 things to be paired. Another thing they might do is before and after, right? The whole class goes on a diet. You take everyone's, say, weight before, and you take their weight after. And even though it's Mars in the sample the first time and Mars in the sample the second time, those are different Marses. One of them is after doing the diet, right? You see what I'm saying? So anything that's before and after is matched pairs, even if it's the same individuals. You got to remember, the individuals are not the sample. Their weights are the sample. Really? We say, you know, Mars was before, Mars after. We really mean his weight before, his weight after. And you take everyone's before and after weight. Okay? So another thing, we got a little bit different notation. Oh, we're out of time. We'll pick it up next time.
Are we having an exam
We are.
before the final? We are?
Yeah, we're yeah, I don't know when it's gonna be, but we need a chapter 8 and 9 exam. It's probably, pardon me? 9 and 10. It will probably be either, we're gonna have to either do it next Friday or maybe the Monday before finals. Take your pick.
And then will you send out like practice exams for the final?
I gotta think whether I have those. That's a very good question.
That would be very helpful.
Okay, but yeah. So count on next Friday. Count on next Friday or the following Monday. We haven't even got to chapter 10. We haven't done any chapter 10. So, okay. See ya.